What if tigers were introduced into the Amazonian rainforest? There are 40 species of wild cats. 7 are classified as big cats. You know which ones we mean. Leopards, jaguars, lions. They're fierce hunters. They're apex predators. They are some of the largest land predators on the planet. The largest of the big cats is the tiger. The tiger is an unmatched predator in the feline family. It rules the forests in which it inhabits. But what if you took tigers away from their habitat and introduced them to a brand new one, say the Amazonian rainforest? How would tigers adapt, if at all? Could they continue on, or would they die out? Tiger habitats. Currently, tigers can be found in several different kinds of habitats, such as swamps, grasslands, and especially in temperate and tropical forests. They live in these types of habitats in South and Southeast Asia, China, some parts of Korea, and even eastern Russia. This is impressive when you consider the wide range of locations. Some tigers' habitats are as far south as the equator, and some of them can be as far north as 50 degrees north. This is unique for a species of big cat. Compare the tiger to the jaguar and the lion. Jaguars range from southern United States through Central America and South America and as far south as northern Argentina. They basically range from 30 degrees north of the equator to 30 degrees south of the equator. Similarly, lions can be found as far north as the southern parts of the Sahara and as far south as northern South Africa. About 15 degrees north of the equator to 30 degrees south of the equator. Similar ranges, and similar climates that range through those lines of latitude. Not a whole lot of change in the climate when staying that close to the equator, but the habitats of tigers change dramatically when you span from the equator up to 50 degrees north. Tigers are adaptable overall as a species. They can live near the equator and handle constant hot temperatures in the tropical forests with constant rainfall. But they can also withstand the seasonal changes in places like Russia, in temperate forests where there are actually 4 seasons throughout the year. It's rare that an animal could live in a tropical forest with hot temperatures, no true seasons, and more than 80 inches of rainfall a year. Or the same animal could be just fine in a temperate forest that goes through spring, summer, fall, and winter and only gets between 30 to 60 inches of rainfall a year. Usually, a species could thrive in one or the other, not both. But tigers are special. They make it work wherever they are. So, could they handle the Amazon? Tigers' background. But before we pick up all the tigers in Asia, airlift them to South America and plop them down amongst the trees of the Amazon, let's take a look at them in more detail. What's their diet like? Tigers will eat a variety of animals, including wild boar, deer, water buffaloes, and pigs. They've also been known to hunt and eat monkeys. If humans are nearby and have cattle and goats, they seize those opportunities. And they've even been known to eat crocodiles. Tigers hunt at night for their prey. Their stripes allow them to camouflage in a variety of settings. They hide, wait, and use their sight and excellent sense of hearing, and when their target is close enough, they pounce. They usually hunt once a week and eat about 75 pounds of food in one night. Tigers are fast. They can reach speeds of 40 miles per hour and can jump 18 to 20 feet. Not many animals are getting away from a tiger. We mentioned tigers are the world's largest cat, but just how big are they? They can vary in size through the different subspecies, but the largest ones, the ones people most commonly associate with the image of a tiger, like Siberian tigers and Bengal tigers, they can easily reach lengths of 10 feet and can weigh in at 650 pounds. So now that we know more about tigers, let's go plop them into the Amazon rainforest. The Amazon. The Amazon is huge. It covers a roughly 4.2 million square mile area of South America. About 60% of the Amazon is situated in Brazil, and the rest of it stretches across portions of Bolivia, Peru, French Guiana, Suriname, Guyana, Venezuela, Colombia, and Ecuador. Because the Amazon falls right on the equator and stretches north of it just a bit, about 5 degrees north, and south of it about 15 degrees south. The Amazon is a tropical rainforest, and we already know tigers live in tropical forests in Asia. This is something the tigers would be able to handle quite well. We know the climate won't affect the tigers much. They can handle the heat and the rainfall. They're very adaptable. But tigers won't have the comforts and usual foods of home back in Asia. They'll have to adjust to South American cuisine, so to speak. What kind of food would the Amazon offer for the tiger? We know that tigers prefer a lot of larger mammals like wild boar, deer, pigs, and water buffaloes. We also know they can adapt to what is offered. In the Amazon, there are capybaras, the world's largest rodent. These can get up to 150 pounds. Wild boars can often be between 170 to 220 pounds, so that might not be all that different. Probably a different taste, but a similar size. That's a possibility for the tigers now lurking in the Amazon. What else? There's also the lowland tapir. This ungulate, which is a relative to the horse and the rhino, will usually weigh between 330 to 660 pounds. Now that's a big meal. Do we think that a tiger could take one down? Well, they take down water buffalo, which usually start at 660 and can hit 1,200 pounds. The tiger should have no problem. There are also a lot of sloths in the Amazon, which tigers could probably make meals of, and those wouldn't be difficult to catch. There are species of deer in and around the Amazon. Perfect. Tigers love deer. There are also monkeys. Perfect. Tigers eat them too. So food shouldn't be an issue. It would be a bit of an adjustment, but there is plenty of sizable and catchable prey found in the Amazon. But our 10-foot, 600-pound tiger isn't just going to waltz right into a rainforest and have no other predators to compete with. What other predators are there in the Amazon? Apex predators of the Amazon. The apex predator of the skies in the Amazon would be the harpy eagle, 3.5 feet in length and 20 pounds. The tiger doesn't have to worry about that. In the water, there's a few other apex predators. There are electric eels there, 8 feet long and 40 pounds. Tigers significantly outweigh them, but they're still big and they have an amazing attack and defense mechanism. Not to mention, the Amazon River also contains bull sharks. They can weigh between 200 and 300 pounds. Weight advantage goes to the tiger, but bull sharks get between 8 and 13 feet long, and they are vicious. Pure muscle. Even though tigers are excellent swimmers and agile in the water, they'd be in the territory of the bull shark. Advantage goes to the bull shark. Tigers would need to learn early on that the water wouldn't be completely safe for them. Getting a drink of water would require a cautious approach. Another apex predator of the waters that also hunts on the land, the black caiman. We know that tigers have hunted and eaten crocodiles, but not often. Also, that's different from hunting a deer. If you don't catch the deer, no problem. If you don't catch the croc might catch you. The black caimans in the Amazon are 16 to 20 feet long and get up to 1,000 pounds. That's a size and a weight advantage for the caiman. We have no doubt that the tiger could hold its own and use its agility to battle the caiman, but it might be best to do its hunting a little farther from the water. Are there any large land predators? Yep. The green anaconda gets up to 30 feet long and weighs 550 pounds. This is another situation where tigers could hold their own, but they'd absolutely need to be cautious. We don't think the anaconda is necessarily looking to eat a tiger, but if threatened, it might have something to say about the new cat in town. In addition to the green anaconda, the other apex predator of the land is the jaguar. Jaguars have thrived in the Amazon. Cunning, intelligent, skilled hunters. They're about 8 feet long, including their tail, and can weigh about 350 pounds. They've ruled much of the Amazon, but jaguars are only the third largest cat on the planet. Yeah, tigers are the largest. So, there isn't much a jaguar can do to hold its own against a larger, heavier tiger. That actually would be a good sign for the tiger, to see a jaguar in the Amazon. Because if a jaguar can live and thrive as an apex predator in the Amazon, then a tiger should be able to do the very same. They already exist in similar climates. Once again, there would be the period of adapting to the new environment, but that shouldn't take very long. Then, tigers would supplant jaguars as the apex feline in the area. The jaguars would be no match for them, having to slide down the totem pole from apex predator to just predator. Tigers would instantly be the apex predators of the land in the Amazon, still being wary of the formidable opponents in the jaguars and anacondas, but knowing that there was no match for them, their power, their size, their agility, they'd rule those lands. And nothing to worry about in the sky, of course. But the water, the tigers would need to be wary around that water. The caimans, the bull sharks, the electric eels, the water would be strictly for drinking, and that's it. Hunting would have to be done inland. So, could tigers adapt to the Amazon rainforest? It looks like they could. It looks like they could thrive. It looks like they'd hardly miss a beat. But it also looks like the jaguars wouldn't be too happy about losing their crown, so they better hope it never happens. What if grizzly bears were introduced into the Amazonian rainforest? The Amazonian rainforest is a scary place to be at night. All those noises, the chittering, the growling, the roaring. The Amazonian rainforest is filled with predators, and we're about to drop one more into the mix, the grizzly bear. Easier said than done, but what if grizzly bears were introduced into the Amazonian rainforest? It's a big rainforest with a lot going on, but this is a big animal we're talking about. Tearing it out of its environment and dropping it into a totally different environment with an ecosystem that isn't ready to be disrupted. But who will be disrupted more, the rainforest or the grizzly bear? Grizzly bears. Okay, we're going to be moving grizzly bears to the Amazonian rainforest, but maybe we should first learn a little bit about them. For instance, where are we moving them from? Where do they live? Well, grizzly bears are actually a subspecies of the brown bear, a subspecies that lives in North America. Grizzly bears have been around since the Pleistocene era. When you look back at those times, and even in decades and centuries past, grizzly bears spanned much of North America. They spanned as far south as Mexico and as far north as northern Canada and Alaska. Their population and their territory has shrunk since then, limiting them mainly to colder regions. For the past 100 years or so, they span much of western Canada, along with Alaska, and there are populations in Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, and Washington. The reason behind the shrinking of their territory has more to do with hunting and the advancement of civilization more than anything else. Their territory is smaller, but they are still large. Grizzly bears by the coastal areas tend to be the larger ones, and grizzly bears are one of the larger subspecies of brown bear. The males will often weigh over 850 pounds. Their total length is between 6 feet long and 8 feet long, and they aren't just long. Even when standing on all fours, their shoulder height is about 40 inches, about 3.5 feet tall. So if the average person is standing next to the average grizzly bear, and that grizzly bear is on all fours, its shoulder will be well past half the height of the person. And if that grizzly bear is standing on its back legs, then that average person better run. Oh, but is running really going to save you? Well, unless you are an Olympic track star, forget it, you're still going to be in trouble. For one, if you run away from a grizzly bear, they will pursue most times, and they will pursue with malicious intent. And you may think the 850-pound bear is going to be slow, too fat to catch you. Incorrect. Grizzly bears are not only muscular, but they have devastating speed. They've been recorded hitting speeds of 30 miles per hour in Yellowstone, and there are reports of them hitting speeds of up to 35 miles per hour. Usain Bolt is the person who has recorded the fastest running speed by a human. That speed was 27.3 miles per hour, and you are not Usain Bolt, and even Bolt would be in trouble. You might think that you should try to climb a tree to escape the pursuing grizzly bear. Bad idea. They can climb trees too. That might have something to do with those claws that are 2 to 4 inches long. You better hope those claws get nowhere near you. So, who is the unfortunate soul that those claws do get close to? Diet and other things. To be an animal that a grizzly bear considers food, that's a rough life. But grizzly bears aren't strictly carnivores. They're omnivores, meaning they eat both animals and plants. One of a grizzly bear's favorite foods is fish. They also will scavenge for food at times, finding dead animals from another predator's kill, or just an animal that met its end. But if they need to, grizzly bears have been known to take down larger animals like deer, elk, caribou, bighorn sheep, bison, moose, and black bears. It's no shock that they can have their pick of the litter with their size, strength, speed, and don't forget the claws. However, when it comes to the more dangerous prey, like moose and bison, grizzly bears play it smart. They don't go after the full-grown bulls. No, even though they may be able to win a battle, it's a battle that they'd come out of far from unscathed. So grizzly bears are actually excellent at stalking and remaining hidden if they need to. They've been seen stalking herds and taking cover behind various objects and waiting for the right moment to pounce on weak members of the herd or calves. But don't forget, grizzly bears like their plants too, and they love berries. Whatever is in their area, whether it be blueberries, blackberries, cranberries, huckleberries, they'll eat them all. Interestingly, it's estimated that in some regions, 80 to 90% of a grizzly bear's diet comes from plant foods. All in all, they'll eat up to 30 pounds of food a day. One of the reasons they eat so much, besides their massive size, is because they need to store fat for the winter when they'll be hibernating. That is, if the weather calls for it. Nowadays, almost all grizzly bears live in areas where it gets cold during the winter, so they hibernate for several months. However, back when grizzly bears lived in places like California and Mexico, some of them didn't need to hibernate as the winters stayed moderate, so they didn't. They're fairly adaptable animals. We think of all grizzly bears needing to hibernate in present day, but that is because their environment calls for it. Now, speaking of environments, is it time to transport the grizzly bears to a new one, like the Amazonian rainforest? The bear is here. The grizzly bears have landed. They're here in the Amazonian rainforest, a lot of new trees and plants surrounding them, and a big river nearby. They look confused, but we're going to see if and how they adjust. It's hotter here than the grizzly bears are used to, more humid too, maybe not by as much as you'd expect. Sure, the 78 to 82 degree heat is hot for a grizzly bear, but even in Alaska, there are times when it reaches 67 degrees in the summer. But grizzly bears inhabit warmer places too. Not to mention, the grizzly bear had ancestors living in California and Mexico. It's in the DNA of the grizzly bear to adjust to these things. By the way, you might think the humidity is a problem for a grizzly bear from a place like Alaska, but did you know Alaska is on average one of the most humid states in the US? Yes, it has an average relative humidity of 77%. Right away, the grizzly bear knows it won't have to hibernate. That's a load off. It can eat as it wishes, but it doesn't need to load up for the winter. But hold on, let's go back to that eats as it wishes part. What is the grizzly bear going to eat? Well, we mentioned there are over 40,000 plant species in the Amazon, and grizzly bears can have their diet consisting of 80 to 90% plant foods. So that's a good start. We're confident they'll be able to find some plants in the Amazon that are a good food source for them, as long as they can avoid any poisonous ones, which there are plenty of. Bears love a variety of berries, and there are plenty of berries in the Amazon. They may be finding some different and more exotic berries. Perhaps they'll be snacking on camu camu or acai. What else do grizzly bears love to eat? Fish. Did we mention over 2,000 species of fish? Maybe the grizzlies will want to avoid the piranha and be mindful of the electric eels and the black caimans in the water. Then again, 850 pounds of big old grizzly bear is difficult to take down. These animals will be cautious of him too. If the fish and the berries and the plant life isn't enough, there are other animals that grizzly bears could stalk and take down if need be. Like the several types of deer and tapirs for starters. There are plenty of rodents, including the world's biggest rodent, the capybara. There are definitely plenty of opportunities, especially if the grizzly bear happens upon some other predator's kill. How will that go down? Well, maybe a grizzly bear will come face to face with a jaguar or a cougar. A jaguar is nothing to bat an eye at. 350 pounds, however, that's a whole 500 pounds less than our grizzly bear from up north. If a jaguar sees a grizzly bear approaching and notices the size discrepancy between them, it will most likely be smart enough to flee the area. In fact, the grizzly bear will become the largest mammalian predator as soon as it steps foot in the Amazon. Black caimans can get to be very large, so that would be an opponent the grizzly will want to watch out for. But it seems like the grizzly bear will be able to adapt. It won't be easy. He'll need to tap into his inner ancestor, the one who lived in places like California and Mexico, the one who dealt with heat and sometimes humidity, the one who didn't have to hibernate. The grizzly bear will have plenty of options for food, all the plants and fruits he wants, plenty of animals to stalk, plenty of selection of fish as long as he is careful by the river. There is more danger in the rivers here than he is used to back home. And when it comes to danger, there are many predators existing here, so the grizzly bear needs to be cautious. But the grizzly bear is faster than many of these predators, and the ones he isn't faster than, he is heavier and stronger than. It's a delicate ecosystem in the Amazon. The grizzly bear may not become top dog right away, but he will be one of the top dogs. And with plenty of food to go around, he'll never be hungry. He's just got to watch that river. What if gorillas were introduced into the Amazonian rainforest? Let us introduce to you the largest living ape, the gorilla. Now let us introduce to you the largest rainforest in the world, the Amazonian rainforest. The Amazon and the gorilla are separated by the entire Atlantic Ocean and a good deal of ground in both South America and Africa. It's safe to say that the two have never been formally introduced. That's what we're here to do, to make the introduction of a lifetime. Gorilla meet the Amazon, Amazon meet the gorilla. Now, what will happen when the two are introduced to one another? How much of a drastic shift can we expect to see? Who is the gorilla? First, let's learn more about the gorilla. And because we want to go with the largest living ape, and there are technically multiple subspecies of gorilla, then let's go with the largest gorilla, the eastern lowland gorilla. Not only is the eastern lowland gorilla the largest of any living ape, it's the largest of any living primate. He's a big guy. The females are smaller, typically standing around 5.2 feet and weighing between 150 to 200 pounds. But the males will often stand between 5 feet 7 inches to 6 feet 5 inches and weigh as much as 460 pounds. To give you an idea of just how much weight that is, let's take a professional athlete, Super Bowl winning Rob Gronkowski. He was 6'5", so if we stand him next to a 6'5" gorilla, they stand at the same height. Rob Gronkowski was in peak physical condition, solid muscle. He weighed 260 pounds. That means the gorilla would weigh 200 pounds more than that. And much of it is muscle. Not to mention, pound for pound, they are so much stronger than humans anyway. Gorillas are more than 10 times as strong as humans, and one punch from a gorilla could shatter a human skull. You add on to that all that extra weight, and you have a dangerously powerful primate. Eastern lowland gorillas like to stay in big groups. Their groups tend to be larger than that of their western counterparts. These gorillas will spend hours every day eating plant matter. Their diet largely consists of fruit, leaves, stems, and bark. A tiny portion of their diet includes ants and other insects. They don't rely much on that for their diet, as opposed to their western counterparts. The eastern lowland gorillas travel infrequently and eat more vegetation in order to meet their dietary needs. You may think since gorillas are so large that they may not be that fast. We hope for your sake that you never think that while out in the wild with one. You will not outrun it. Gorillas can run at speeds of up to 25 miles per hour. Usain Bolt, the fastest man alive, did once hit 27 miles per hour, but that was for a short distance. A gorilla can maintain a speed of 25 miles per hour for a little while, so no humans are getting away from them. They are also excellent climbers, and though they don't swing from branch to branch on the trees, they are dexterous and can move around easily. They're strong, they're fast, they're excellent climbers, and since they're a member of the ape family, they're extremely intelligent, able to problem solve and pick things up quickly. So that's great. We have a good sense of the gorilla, but how are we going to find them? Where is the gorilla? We asked who is the gorilla and got ourselves a detailed answer. Now, where is the gorilla? Well, all the gorillas in the world live in Central and Equatorial Africa. The western gorillas are found in a few different countries on the western portion of Central Africa. But the eastern lowland gorilla is only found in one country, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, though their populations are right next to the border of Rwanda. Now, the name Eastern Lowland Gorilla is helpful, but also slightly deceiving. Yes, they are in the eastern portion of Central Africa, and yes, you will find them in lowlands, but not strictly lowlands. You see, there is something interesting and unique about the Eastern Lowland Gorilla. Of all the subspecies of gorilla, this one has the widest altitudinal range. What does that mean? They're highly adaptable. They can be found in the lowlands, they can be found in the mountainous regions, and they can be found in between in transitional areas. They'll live in tropical and subtropical forests, but there are also populations living in highlands that are found in dense primary forests, moist woodlands, swamps, and peat bogs. Adaptability is a key factor to the gorilla's existence. They need to be able to make multiple scenarios work, especially when it comes to their safety. As you can imagine, a big gorilla doesn't have many predators. But that doesn't mean they don't have any predators. In fact, they have a couple they have to watch out for: leopards and crocodiles. Two worthy opponents that more often will look for a lone gorilla to pick off. Now, gorillas tend to stay in large families, so they have safety in numbers. But if ever they are in danger of a crocodile, climbing surrounding trees can help. However, the leopard is extremely good at climbing trees, so gorillas have had to learn to adapt. They need to use their agility and speed to get away, use their superior ability to move through trees to get away, and if it comes down to it, their power. Well, it's good to know that gorillas have learned to defend themselves against a few predators that they have. Once again, showing off their intelligence and adaptability. These are all going to be very important things when we send a plane out to the Democratic Republic of the Congo and pick up a family of eastern lowland gorillas, because their next destination, they're going to need a lot of good qualities in order to survive. Gorilla meet Amazon. The time has finally come. A family of eastern lowland gorillas have been transported to the Amazonian rainforest. They'll stick together, watching each other's backs while they scope out their new surroundings. The first thing they'll notice is the temperature and the humidity. Now, depending on where exactly these eastern lowland gorillas were, it may be a slight change or a drastic change, but not so drastic that they can't handle it. Remember, this is the most adaptable gorilla in the world. They can handle all sorts of climates. They'll be all right. They may want to dip in the river occasionally to cool down, but they'll need to learn right away that the water can be dangerous. There are many dangerous animals in there, but gorillas are smart. They learn quickly, they solve problems, so this is something that they can figure out. It's not like the waters in Africa weren't dangerous too. As they watch out for predators, they'll start to notice some of the biggest ones there. Electric eels could hurt them if they're in the water, but they're not too big. Pythons are scary, but there are plenty of snakes in Africa too. Venomous snakes at that. The python isn't venomous, but it is a constrictor. Not that it will likely try to constrict a 6'5" gorilla. The gorillas will just be sure to keep their distance. Next, the gorillas will notice black caimans, and they'll use the same strategy they use when they see crocodiles: retreat into the trees. The other big predator they'll come across would be the jaguars. Now, jaguars are a lot like leopards. They're also ambush predators, but they're bigger, bulkier, and faster, able to hit speeds of 50 miles per hour in short bursts. However, even though they can get in and out of trees, they aren't quite as good in the trees as the leopards are, nor as good as the gorillas. So it's the trees that will be the gorilla's best friend if they see predators. But they can sure avoid predators in this huge rainforest, so much bigger than their rainforests back home. So many places to hide, to sleep, to eat. Oh, and the choices of plants and fruits. The Amazon is abundant with plants for the gorillas to eat. They're bound to find plenty of choices. And yes, there are the insects, but we just hope no gorilla finds any bullet ants. And if they do, They're smart. It will only take one mistake, and they'll never let that happen again. It's looking like the gorillas will be able to manage living in the Amazon. In fact, they will probably even flourish. The water might be more dangerous, they have similar predators to watch out for, the jaguar might be a bit scarier than the leopard back home, but again, the gorillas have the trees, and they have so many food choices. Now, when it comes to how the animals will feel about the arrival of the gorillas, that's a tricky one. The jaguars and black caimans may be cautious when they see the gorillas. They've never seen an ape before. The best they have are a wide variety of monkeys, the largest being howler monkeys that weigh about 32 pounds. The predators will soon realize that the gorillas aren't trying to take any of their food, so they will learn to be okay with their presence. But the rest of the monkeys may be upset, knowing that humongous apes have just showed up, and they're going to be taking a lot of their food sources and perhaps a lot of their usual hangout spots. The howler monkey will be especially upset. He used to be the biggest primate in the Amazon. Now he is far from it. Aside from some hurt feelings, the howler monkeys will probably manage, and most importantly, this family of gorillas will be able to get along in their new home. They'll be cautious of their new predators, they'll use their quick learning skills to determine the best areas to live, and since they don't have to eat bugs, they'll probably wind up sticking to an entirely plant-based diet. Got to watch out for those bullet ants. What if lions were introduced into the Amazon rainforest? The Amazon is not only the world's largest rainforest, it's also home to a plethora of animals. 3,000 species of fish, 1,300 species of birds, and over 420 species of mammals. So, what if we threw another mammal into the mix? What if lions were introduced into the Amazon rainforest? Lions are not native to this area, so if they were planted into it, how would they handle it? Would they thrive, or would they wither away? Lions' habitats. Lions don't live in the Amazon. They don't even live on the continent of South America, where the Amazon is located. Let's explore what a lion's habitat currently looks like, because it has some similarities to the Amazon, but also some vast differences. The biggest similarity between the majority of lions' habitats and the Amazon is the lines of latitude. The Amazon is mainly situated in Brazil, and the rest of it spans across other South American countries like Venezuela, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, Bolivia, and more. The Amazon is right on the equator. It reaches about 5 degrees north of the equator and 15 degrees south of the equator. Now, let's look at where lions live. There is a small Indian lion subspecies that lives in the Gir forest of northwestern India. Though once upon a time, lions used to live in many parts of Asia, Europe, and Africa, they now mainly reside only in Africa. Lions mostly range from the southern parts of the Sahara Desert like Sudan and Chad, and all the way down to the northernmost parts of South Africa. A range that is about 15 degrees north of the equator and 30 degrees south of the equator. As you can see, those lines of latitude are quite similar. Lions are no stranger to heat, but when you look at the specific climate they are used to, they don't live right in the desert, nor do they live in rainforests. They do have a wide range of habitats in Africa, but they span from open plains to thick brush to dry thorn forest. The climate in the Amazon is far different from that of what lions are used to, but at least there's plenty of places for cover. So what else do we need to know about the lion before we ship them over to the Amazon rainforest? Details of a lion. It's great that we know about where lions typically live, but we need to know more about them before we go moving them all over the world. Female lions will be 7 to 8 feet long and can weigh up to 350 pounds. Male lions will be 9 to 10 feet long and weigh up to 500 pounds. Huge cats with broad heads, strong legs, and they are just powerfully built all over. The lion is actually one of the more muscular animals in the world. Impressive sizes, right? After all, lions are the second largest cat in the world, only paling in comparison to the tiger. And for these reasons, this is why the lion is an apex predator. It is unmatched in its habitat. Yes, there are other predators such as hyenas, but the lion is the biggest and strongest predator in all of the continent of Africa. So what does the apex predator of Africa eat? Lions eat primarily large animals that weigh between 100 to 1,000 pounds. Yes, even animals that are larger than them. Their favorites are zebras, gazelles, and wildebeests. If they're having trouble finding animals of larger sizes, they'll prey on smaller animals like rodents and reptiles. If they can't get the kills themselves, but say a hyena or a leopard does, lions have been known to steal the kill from them. That's the advantage of being an apex predator. Lions will hunt alone, but also in prides. If they hunt in their pride, usually the lionesses will do the work. A lion's strategy is to use its golden tan coloring to camouflage with the surrounding plants and landscape. They stay low, hidden, stalking their prey and nearing closer and closer. Lions have amazing short burst speed and power. However, the prey they seek out tend to have more endurance and better long-distance speed. So lions like to get close to their prey and then pounce when the time is right. Okay, we know a good deal about this apex predator in its own place, but will it be able to adapt when we relocate it? The plunge into the Amazon. We mentioned the Amazon before occupies much of South America, between 5 degrees north of the equator and 15 degrees south of the equator, roughly. But because it is a rainforest, it is humid and quite warm. Lions are used to the heat, but typically they deal with dry heat. The Amazon is usually around 78 degrees Fahrenheit or 26 degrees Celsius in the rainy season, along with relative humidity being about 88%. And in the dry season, it's on average 82 degrees Fahrenheit or 28 degrees Celsius, along with a relative humidity of about 77%. If we compare that to, say, the grasslands of Africa that have many lions, that's far more humid. The relative humidity of the grasslands in Africa will often stay right around 70%, but the temperature of those grasslands that are often occupied by lions will usually range between 68 to 86 degrees Fahrenheit or 20 to 30 degrees Celsius. The heat shouldn't be much of a problem for the lions, they're used to that, but the humidity is another factor. Lions would have to adjust to a much more humid climate. Just because they don't currently live in tropical rainforests doesn't mean they couldn't. It appears lions don't quite prefer that climate, as there are tropical rainforests in Africa, but you won't find lions there. But if forced into it, could they adapt? Lions do already adapt to different environments throughout Africa, so if they were placed in the Amazon, they may be able to adjust over time, but they'd have to change so much. They'd probably have to conserve more energy, what with the slightly added heat and the added humidity. However, lions have always been good at finding shade in Africa when needed, and the rainforest provides much shade from direct sunlight. That could be a benefit. Lions will sometimes go a day or two without water, only getting water from their food, but in the rainforest they likely wouldn't have to go as long. Water would be more plentiful for them. This could be an advantage. More hydrated, more energy. However, lions love to use the color of their hair to blend in with their surroundings when sneaking up on prey. Much of the Amazon rainforest has lush greens and other vibrant colors. The lion may stick out in many situations. They'd have to become even stealthier, a trait they already possess. But hunting for prey would become much more difficult. Speaking of prey, what kind of prey would they have in the Amazon? And who else would they be competing with over that prey? Lions rule the lands of Africa. If dropped into the Amazon, theoretically, they could rule the lands there too. They'd be smart to steer clear of the water if it wasn't for a quick drink. But lions would also need a heavy transition period to acclimate. The humidity would be a big factor. It's not even a certainty they'd fully adjust, but if they did, they'd still have to adapt their hunting technique, what with their coloring not blending in with their surroundings as well anymore. It would be a large adjustment period for a lion in the Amazon, but we've seen lions thrive where they currently are. Let's not put anything past them. What if wolves were introduced into the Amazonian rainforest? They say you can be hungry like the wolf, but not many are. A wolf has a hunger so deep, so raw, it is what drives them to stay alive. Wolves are excellent hunters. They'd have to be, or else they would have gone extinct a long time ago. Wolves are symbols of power and respect in the regions they live in. But what if we turned their world upside down and threw them into an entirely different region, the Amazonian rainforest? That's right, we're taking a pack of wolves and bringing them down south to the Amazon. Let's see what happens to the wolves and to the Amazon itself. Wolf region. So we want to know what a pack of wolves will be like once we transport them down to the Amazonian rainforest, because it does differ greatly from where they currently live. But where do wolves currently live? There are many subspecies of wolves found in various places in the world, but there are just two species of wolves, grey wolves and red wolves. The grey wolf has a huge area in which he inhabits. Not so big that it includes the Amazon, but still an impressive range. Grey wolves have what's known as a circumpolar range, meaning they are located in one of Earth's polar regions, and that pole would be the North Pole. But we are not saying you can find only grey wolves all the way up at the North Pole. But most of the grey wolf population lives in countries like Canada, United States, Russia, Norway, Sweden, Finland, Poland, and other northern countries. Now, there are also red wolves, and they have a much smaller range that they cover. They once covered much of the United States from Texas to Pennsylvania, but their habitat has since been reduced massively. The only place you can find red wolves now is in an area of northeastern North Carolina. Grey wolves tend to be found in habitats such as temperate forests, mountains, taigras, and tundras, but as we've seen that they can travel farther south, we realize that they can also thrive in deserts and grasslands, even if the temperature is higher. They're generally used to colder temperatures, but they never restrict themselves to one particular habitat as an entire species. They can get by in various situations. Red wolves are restricted to a single area in North Carolina, but they used to roam free in many climates and habitats, whether they were forests, swamps, or coastal prairies. They've dealt with cold Pennsylvanian winters and hot Texas summers, so they're quite adaptable as well. Besides where they live, what are some other differences between the wolves? Hungry wolf. Let's learn more about these wolves, since we haven't quite made a decision which wolves we'll be taking down to the Amazonian rainforest. Of all the canids in the world, these are the two biggest, our two wolves. The grey wolf is the largest living canid, and the red wolf comes in at number 2 on the size chart. Grey wolves are usually about 6 to 6.5 feet long when fully grown. They're usually around 140 to 150 pounds, but can easily get up past 180 pounds, especially the farther north they live. The colder it is, the more weight they have to pack on, and as long as there is an abundant food source, they can keep themselves fed and happy. Red wolves will usually grow to be 5 to 5.5 feet long and can weigh between 70 to 90 pounds. Two big puppies, but a distinct difference between the two. We can tell the grey wolf truly holds the title of biggest canid. Now, they both share many similarities, like the fact that they're both pack hunters. This is a common trait for all canids, and especially wolves. A pack of wolves could be just 6 wolves, it could even be more than 10, and they don't just live together, they hunt together. Wolves are highly intelligent, able to communicate with others in a variety of ways, especially with certain body movements. They're in tune with one another in their pack, so when they're out hunting large prey, they're on the same page. One important thing to note about wolves is that they are also endurance hunters. Unlike the felines of the world who are ambush predators, wolves do not rely on pouncing on its prey and capturing them immediately. If it happens that way, fantastic, but wolves are counting on a long chase. They are endurance freaks, like marathon runners who can just keep going and going. Their bodies are built for keeping up speeds for long distances. They give chase to their prey, knowing that their prey will not only race off, but will be able to do so at a fast pace. But they are counting on their prey eventually tiring themselves out, and the wolves may then do the dirty work, attacking when their victim lacks energy and strength. No matter if the prey still has strength, the wolves have more. They are extremely muscular and strong individuals, and they have a bite force of 1200 psi, enough to crack through thigh bones of large deer and moose. These wolves aren't messing around, and they can hit top speeds between 30 and 37 miles per hour. That's a factor that comes in handy when chasing after speedy deer and other fast prey that they set their sights on. Now, even though wolves are predators, highly successful predators, in many of the regions they live, they are not definitely the apex predator. They may be in certain regions, but they often have to compete with bears that are larger than them, or cougars or coyotes. So they aren't most certainly at the top of the food chain in every instance. They may have to duke it out with other predators who may be looking for the same prey as them, or may be looking to make their home in the same region. Because of this, wolves are highly flexible and adaptable. They're not set in their ways. They're not used to be king of the taiga, because they're always aware a bigger predator may be lurking about. If we ship them off to the Amazon, how much of that will change, and how much will stay the same? The delivery. We're making a delivery, not with Amazon, but to the Amazon. Please handle with care. As you open this box, race away from it, because emerging from this gigantic crate is a couple of packs of wolves. We decided to bring a pack of grey wolves and a pack of red wolves. Grey wolves are larger, more dominating. Red wolves are also large, a bit smaller than their grey cousins, but they're more attuned to warmer climates. The temperature change will be less of a surprise to the reds, but many of our greys will be astounded by the warm temperatures. But remember, it's in the blood of wolves in general, red or grey, to be adaptable. Our reds used to be found from Texas to Pennsylvania. They can deal with a variety of temperatures and climates. And our greys, though primarily in places like Canada and Russia, they can be spotted in India and China too. So it's going to be a surprise at first, but we wouldn't call it a shock. This is something all of our wolves can adjust to over time. The reds may adjust more quickly, and they'll probably form hunting packs and strategize soon after their arrival. The greys will do so a little later. Wolves are perfectly fine living in the woods, so the rainforest won't be too different for them. They'll be fine with the tree cover. They can find their open areas more preferred for hunting, but being able to hide behind trees will be great. Wolves are agile in their movements, so they'll be able to navigate this terrain just fine. They will enjoy the nice big river running right through their new home, but we hope someone tells them to be careful. If not, our wolves will have to find out the hard way. We hope they don't find out by example, seeing the big black caiman pop out at an inopportune time. But that won't be something you need to tell our wolves twice. They'll know to steer clear of the river except when drinking, and they'll learn to drink with caution. There will be plenty of animals to feast on: deer, tapirs, capybaras. There will be no shortage of food. And the wolves will be able to implement their same strategies when hunting. So everything has been looking pretty good so far. In fact, when they come across their first bear, they'll be relieved. They're used to sharing territories with much larger brown bears and black bears. These spectacled bears are mostly smaller than our greys and not much bigger than our reds. One less larger predator. However, the wolves won't see any cougars, but they'll soon meet the likes of the larger, stronger jaguar. The jaguar's bite is worse than any bark or bite the wolves are used to, and the wolves will realize they aren't the apex predators in this region. But that's fine. They're often not the definitive apex predator. They are used to being a top predator, but not the undisputed champ in most places. This isn't so bad. And hey, that jaguar is scary, and they'll certainly steer clear. He can hit faster speeds than them, but they can keep up fast speeds for longer. So as long as they don't get too close, even if the jaguar gives chase, they'll likely be able to outrun him. The Amazonian rainforest will be an adjustment, but one our wolves will be able to make. They'll trade larger bears and cougars for smaller bears and jaguars. This scenario may even give them less competition. They'll be more careful around the water. A new enemy in the black caiman will be one to watch out for, and there will be no shortage of food. The existing predators won't really be affected by the presence of the wolves, maybe occasionally losing a meal to their new competition, but nothing too critical. The only losers in this equation, the prey. One more predator to worry about. 2 packs of wolves, one full of greys, one full of reds, all full of scary chomping mouths. Life just got harder for the vegetarians of the Amazon. What if crocodiles were introduced into the Amazonian rainforest? The Amazonian rainforest is roughly 2.58 million square miles. That's how big it is. The Amazon is home to over 40,000 plant species and over 3 million animal species. Every plant and every animal that is there is supposed to be there. They all serve a purpose. It is a delicate balance. Well, we want to shake that all up, turn the Amazon upside down. We want to insert crocodiles into the Amazonian rainforest. And if we did that, what would happen? How would the Amazon react? And more importantly, how would the crocodile react? Crocodile habitats. Hold on a second, we were ready to up and move the crocodile to the Amazon, but we don't even know where to go get him from. We should probably find out where the crocodile resides first. We need to figure out what his location is. Now, we're going to have a lot of options because, truth be told, crocodiles seem to live everywhere. They are found almost everywhere besides the Amazon, it seems. In fact, of the 7 continents in the world, crocodiles are found in all but 2. The only continents they're not found in are Europe and Antarctica. You can find crocodiles in many parts of Southern Asia and in parts of Australia, not to mention all the island nations located in between the two. Crocodiles are littered throughout the African continent, and you can also find them in southern North America and northern South America. In fact, the areas of South America that they reside are just north of the Amazon. So they aren't that far from the Amazon currently. Then again, entering into the Amazonian rainforest is a whole different beast. But when you look at the range of locations that crocodiles live, you'll notice a theme. If you look at all these places on a map, they're all located within a wide stripe right in the center of the globe, hovering right around the equator. They like to live near rivers, lakes, and wetlands, preferring fresh water much of the time, but they can also be found in brackish water and saltwater environments. That is an interesting bit of information about the crocodile. Though it has a strict requirement, must stay near water, it stays flexible with what type of water in many cases. So crocodiles like the water, and they look like they like the heat. That's the perfect habitat for a crocodile, something that provides them with constant heat when they want it, but has water on hand nearby. Why exactly is that? Crocodile details. We'll tell you why that is, because we didn't need to just explore where the crocodile lives, we needed to explore the crocodile itself. We need to explore the makeup of the crocodile so we know how he's going to react when he and all his friends get transported to the Amazonian rainforest. And the first thing we'll talk about is the fact that the crocodile is a reptile. You may say, duh, but it's an extremely important factor because reptiles have very specific needs when it comes to their environment. Reptiles are cold-blooded. This means, unlike warm-blooded animals like humans, they cannot maintain a constant body temperature. The body temperature of a cold-blooded crocodile fluctuates as the weather fluctuates. Cold-blooded animals cannot survive in extreme temperatures if they have no ability to regulate their body temperature. In order to regulate the temperature of their body, they need to be exposed to the desired temperature. That is why a crocodile could not exist in the middle of a desert, nor could they exist in a tundra. They need exposure to the sun to warm up when they need to be warm, but they need something to cool them down as well, whether that comes in the form of shade or water. It's a constant procedure for the crocodile, basking out on rocks in the sun, then dipping into the water, then back to the sun, and so on. So that's how crocodiles keep their body healthy. Now, how do they keep their body fed? Well, if you take one look at a crocodile, you can see it is a hunter. Crocodiles are opportunistic feeders, so they will feed on whatever is available, whenever it is available. This often results in them eating mammals of varying sizes, lizards, frogs, fish, crustaceans, and even insects. Most times a crocodile will use the water to help it stalk its prey. They wait until the perfect moment, and then they strike. Not many animals are escaping that quick twitch snap of a croc's jaws, and once it's got a hold, you can basically call it game over. There are varying types of crocodiles, but if we are talking about the saltwater crocodile, it has a bite force that is more than 3,600 pounds per square inch. That is good enough to be the strongest recorded bite force of any animal on planet Earth. For reference, 3,600 pounds is like the weight of a small car. That's what it would feel like coming down on you as a crocodile bites down. And if we are still talking about the saltwater crocodile, they can grow to be over 20 feet long and weigh up to 2,200 pounds. These are not small guys. They're huge and they're powerful, and they aren't necessarily the fastest animals, but being able to move between 15 and 18 miles per hour, that is no small feat. There's also the American crocodile, which can move even faster, hitting speeds of up to 20 miles per hour. Of course, the American crocodile is a bit smaller, usually between 12 and 15 feet long, and weighing half the saltwater crocodile, about 1,100 pounds. Still, that's a big reptile. So the croc is a big bad boy. Are we ready to move him to the Amazon and see what happens? The big move. So we got a special team of people to airlift a crocodile or two and bring them to the Amazonian rainforest. It wasn't easy, but we got them there. Just in the interest of experimentation, we have a saltwater crocodile and an American crocodile. We didn't put them together, but they're both situated in areas of the Amazon and can explore as they wish. The first thing they need to do is locate a source of water, and luckily, that Amazon River runs right through the rainforest. That's perfect for them. They'll be able to cool down when they wish, and they can use this water to hunt. Now, the Amazon River is fresh water, so this won't pose a problem for the American crocodile. And though you may think the saltwater crocodile will be in trouble, he won't. Salties, as they are sometimes called, have been seen in plenty of freshwater environments, so they're able to adapt. Now, the rest of the rainforest is looking pretty nice for the crocs. They don't want extreme temperatures, and the Amazon stays consistently warm. This Amazon rainforest is looking pretty good for our crocs. They got sun, they got water to cool down and to hunt in. Yes, it's time to hunt. What do we have to eat here? Well, crocodiles are not picky. They have their pick of the tons of fish in the river. All the other small reptiles and amphibians. There are also deer and boars and tapirs that they can attack as they drink from the river. It's like a Vegas buffet for the crocodile. These crocs are probably wondering why they haven't come down here any sooner. Well, because there could be issues. There could be other predators. And well, there is another crocodile who nearly made it down to the Amazon. Bordering nearby, and sometimes finding his way into the Amazon, is the Orinoco. However, these crocs are critically endangered and seldom seen right in the Amazon. If they are usually 22 feet long and 1,000 pounds. So our American croc better watch out. That thing weighs about the same, but is much bigger in length. Our salty should be fine. He weighs twice as much and would dominate him. Now, there are black caimans in the Amazon, also about 20 feet long and 1,000 pounds. Once again, the American should be wary. The salty is still the top dog here. In fact, the salty is starting to look like he might be the apex predator. There is the jaguar to watch out for, the apex predator of all mammals in the Amazon. That is a powerful and fast animal that could sneak up and pounce on our croc. But once again, the croc has a massive weight advantage. The American crocodile has a lot to get used to, multiple new predators to compete with, but he would make it. The salty is walking around and feeling really good about this new place. Constant warm temperatures, the biggest river in the world, plenty of food to eat, and he gets to be top dog, more or less. Maybe the salty should move down here permanently, get all of his friends and family to join him. However, there is one important thing to note. Yes, the crocodile himself would thrive down in the Amazon, but we shouldn't go moving the whole species down here. The species may not continue on, because those constant temperatures could pose a problem. You see, the Amazon River stays a steady 84 to 86 degrees Fahrenheit year-round. And there's one more interesting tidbit about the crocodile. They mate, and then they lay their eggs in the water. So, if we brought males and females down here, after they mated, they'd lay eggs in the Amazon River. Now, crocodile eggs are heavily influenced by the temperature of the water. It influences the sex of the baby. At 86 degrees and below, the hatchlings tend to always come out female, and 90 degrees and up, the hatchlings tend to always come out male. The in-between temperatures are where you get a little of both. But if those Amazon River temperatures don't go above 86, we may be looking at crocodiles giving birth to only females, meaning there might be no males being produced. So yes, our American crocodile and our saltwater crocodile could make it in the Amazon, and our salty would check every other animal that views itself as an apex predator. They'd all have to check their egos at the door, but let's not move all the crocs down here. That may not be a wise move.